Hello and welcome to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz and host of Raising the Standards on KCAT radio in Santa Cruz. Now we're doing something new today. For the last 3 years or maybe 5 years we've done this show. We've done it from in the studio. We are actually outside behind the stage at Jazz on the Plazz with my pal and this week's artist, Benack III. Hello, buddy.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me out here.
Nice to see you. As always, my disclaimer, by the time you see this interview, he will be long gone. But we hope, had you been at the concert, I know you had a marvelous time, and hopefully we'll see him again soon. That having been said, a very quick thank you to the folks at the Willow Street family of restaurants, Willow Street and Main Street Burgers, who are kind enough to sponsor the show. We'll talk more about them later. You and I had lunch at Willow Street?
Yeah, we just ate there. It was great.
Good food. So
wonderful.
You're a happy boy. Benny, you, the old tale that the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, or in this case, the trees. Your grandfather, Benny Benack, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah, Benack. Yeah,
Benny
exactly.
Benack was a Pittsburgh staple in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Actually, he wrote the Pirates theme song, right?
Yeah, the Mazeroski 1960 walk-off year, Beat 'em Bucks. I mean, it was basically just Camptown races, but they put, Pirates lyrics on it. So that was him and Joe Negri, the guitarist from Mr. Rogers, Handyman Negri. So it goes way back.
Yes, and since being a Yankee fan, that was not a good year. Since
well, you got to give us one.
Home run.
We got to go back 80 years to find a good Pirates memory.
Yeah, you had Sturgills. You had a couple of good years. And your dad, now I've often said, as cool as it is to be the third, it means somebody has to be junior.
That's right.
And your dad took the bullet on that one.
That's right.
But your dad is a great saxophone player and a band leader as well.
Tenor player, clarinet player as well, so I grew up gigging with him, so absolutely. So
the question, obviously there was music in the house, is a bit redundant.
Yeah, my mother too, anytime I do an interview, if it goes too much about my dad and my grandfather, my mom says, well, I sang with the Pittsburgh Symphony with Marvin Hamlisch and I teach at Carnegie Mellon. So I'm always quick to say my mom is where I get the vocal chops, my dad is where I get the blowing chops on the horn. So it comes from both sides. But yeah, I was around the music from Jump Street, you know.
Now, what do you have siblings?
I have an older sister. She's out here in California,
actually. And does she play?
She's a great singer, great pianist, but had the good sensibility to get a day job,
Now, did you have the obligatory piano lessons, or did you start straight off on the reed?
My sister and I started with young piano lessons, and it was kind of like pulling teeth to get me to practice. I used to have like a little Mickey Mouse timer on the piano, and I'd come home from school, and my grandfather would be watching me, and he'd like go into the other room and watch the History Channel, and I'd like take the Mickey Mouse thing and move it ahead 15 minutes, so I'd be sitting there for like 4 minutes. But I was about 9 years old, second grade, when they took one of my grandfather's cornets and put it in my hands. And once I found the trumpet, practicing wasn't so much of a chore, I'm
going to ask an obvious dumb question. Difference between a cornet and a trumpet?
It's not a stupid question at all. They're brother and sister, they're siblings, but a cornet for a 9-year-old kid makes more sense because it's smaller, It's basically if you took a trumpet and just kind of smushed it together, that would be a cornet. So that was what I learned on when I was 9 years old, before I got a trumpet.
Now, your trumpet, we're going to play something in a little while, but is it tricked out design? Winton's got the one.
Oh yeah, he's got diamond encrusted. Yeah. No, it's nothing too.
It's still a horn.
Yeah, that's right. It's about the player, not the equipment, right? So I mean, my equipment setup is pretty generic, but I'm like one of these old school guys. It's like, if Ben Hogan could hit like a 1-iron, made out of wood, why do I need to have some kind of fancy, titanium thing? So I keep it pretty simple with the equipment, So
going back to the piano, and it's like everyone that ever took piano lessons that didn't end up classical, at some point, as you say, would change the Mickey Mouse thing, or start playing, as Ray Charles started playing Boogie Woogie.
Yeah, right.
Or ending up playing Little Richard when they're out of the room.
Yeah.
At what point did you pick up the cornet?
I think I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I had already taken piano for a few years at that point, but it was totally what you said. Like, I would go into my piano lessons every Saturday, and I would just not practice the piece that I was supposed to practice, the Mozart, the Bach, the Beethoven, and I would just say to my teacher, oh, you know, I was working on this song this week, which is just complete improvising, just, you know, sorry, whatever I'm saying, just BSing, I should say. And, you know, that kind of flew for a few years. And then when I started the trumpet on the cornet, you know, I got pretty serious about being diligent and practicing, and I really took to it, so.
Now, you're in your mid-20s, right?
I am 31.
31?
I'm 31, yeah.
Oh,
I need to update the bio, I think, on my website. I'm coasting off of that.
Look at my website, there's no gray.
Yeah.
But, so you were just at the tail end of, well, a little bit longer, of the future groups like Chicago and Tower of Power and stuff. And the reason I asked, we all played in a high school rock and roll band,
nice.
A garage band.
Of course.
I managed because I had no talent. But did you play in a rock and roll band, and did you play in one with horns?
Well, I mean, I guess the rock and roll band would be my dad's, you know, my dad's band that would play club dates and society gigs and weddings and country clubs.
And
so
don't go change it.
Yeah, right. So
Murph and the Mellotones.
I grew up kind of playing, you know, knowing the horn parts to 25 or 6/4 and knowing, you know, Stevie Wonder horn lines because I was playing weddings and jobbing type gigs with my dad. So I think that carried over when I became more of a quote unquote artist, where I'm always thinking in terms of, like, if you're a band at a wedding and you're like, all right, we got him on the dance floor, we don't want to lose him, don't slow down now, do another up tempo. So I always have this sensibility of, you know, wanting to cater the experience to the audience, which comes from, you know, those kind of jobbing gigs where you're not that highfalutin. Your job is to just get people dancing and have a good time.
Coming from the great jazz stock that you come from, there's obviously an advantage just from how you grew up. Was there much advantage in getting started professionally?
Well, I mean, you know, you can certainly look at the guys, the buddies that my dad would play golf with and hang out with were all great musicians. And when it was time for me to start, you know, my summer job, I didn't work at a driving range or at the swimming pool. My summer job was playing gigs, you know, even when I was 14, 15 years old. So, I mean, my dad had a Rolodex 100 pages thick of, he knew all the guys in Pittsburgh, and he knew, go see this, sit in with this cat if you want to play his gig. And
but your dad's not going to introduce a half-ass player.
Well, yeah, of course, and you know, you can kind of get those opportunities, you know, if your dad gets you through the door. But in the music business, if you can't play, you know, that's only going to get you so far. So you have to be able to back it up, you know.
Well, we're gonna take a little break, and then we'll bring you up to date from his 14-year-old garage band days up until the present. Just got back from a tour of Europe.
A month in Europe. It was blazingly hot. No AC over there.
And I'm surprised he hasn't yawned yet in this interview. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. You're watching Jazz Tonight. Delighted to have you with us. And I want to take a moment again to thank our sponsors, the Willow Street family of restaurants, Willow Street and Main Street Burgers. And actually, we'll talk to them in a little while. We'll be back in just a minute with the great Benny Benack III. So we're here on the set of Jazz Tonight, Jacobi with you, and we wanted to take a minute to thank our sponsors, the Willow Street family of restaurants, and to get to know them a bit. Now we all know them, but perhaps what you don't know, this is the principal owner, Ed Rathman. Hello, Eddie.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Good to see you. It's like, it's my favorite restaurant in town. First of all, Willow Street, you guys are such an icon in Los Gatos. You've and such an integral part of the community. And on behalf of the community and the fundraising people in this town, I want to thank you publicly in front of God and everyone, who's a big fan, by the way. That having been said, what year did you open here?
1993.
So you opened the year before the World Cup.
Yeah, and it kind of put us on the map.
My God, I remember you couldn't cross the street. Behind us, of course, is Willow Street. You couldn't cross the street from Willow Street to Hannigan's.
No, it was wall-to-wall people, and the Brazilians were wonderful. It really was one big party for 3 or 4
How many
nights.
of your servers were proposed to? A lot. Well, you know, it's amazing. Someone said to me once the difference between Americans and Brazilians, when Americans get drunk, they riot. When Brazilians get drunk, they party.
That's true. One Brazilian said to me, "You Americans say no, no, no.
Yeah,
Us Brazilians say yes, yes, yes."
So, as you say, that kind of puts you on the map. You had your original location is in Willow Glen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your, you know, when you started Willow Glen, I guess 91, and what was the philosophy? Obviously, there was a California Pizza Kitchen existed. What were you looking to do?
You know, to be honest, that we saw their success and it was inspiring, but I had come from more of a fine dining background, and I wanted to bring some of the benefits of fine dining down to a little bit casual dining atmosphere. And I didn't want white tablecloths, didn't want candles, and I just wanted really good food at reasonable prices.
So you run into somebody at a party, you got like 15 seconds to describe Willow Street. How do you do it?
Great wood-fired pizza, pasta, salads, nice atmosphere, very casual dining, great service, fun atmosphere.
Wow, 15 seconds. That's good. Willow Street wood-fired pizza and Main Street Burgers, the Willow Street family of restaurants. And we're so thankful that they're sponsoring Jazz tonight. So the club scene in New York, pretty much back?
Yeah, everything is basically back open now, save for the super, super late night. It
Well,
used
the
to
Vanguard, I mean, talk about COVID. We're just going to go downstairs here with no fire exit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, are they reopened again?
The Vanguard is back open. A lot of those, you know, dungeon clubs in the West Village are back open. It used to be you'd have music until about 4 or 5 every night, and that's the one thing that the West Village hasn't quite got its footing back. You can still hear music. Small Jazz Club will go till 3 a.m. But it used to be you could go till 4, and then you go to the diner, and then you get home when the sun comes up. Now all the diners close at like 2 a.m. So you finish playing at 3, and there's nowhere to go. You got to go home.
You know my friend Amy Cervini from Duchess?
Yeah.
Well, Amy,
I just played with her brother in Canada. Her brother
we've had them
is
here
a great
couple
drummer in
times.
Toronto.
I love those guys.
Ernesto.
Well, and she is it Bar 55?
55 Bar, yeah,
55
which just
bar.
closed actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm staying down the street from there now.
There you go.
But it's closed now?
They just, I mean, that was a whole big hullabaloo. They just closed last
That's
month.
too
It was
bad.
like they couldn't pay their rent for the last 2 years, and they, you know.
So, the club scene's back, which is marvelous. You do Time Warner and all?
Yeah, at Lincoln Center, of course. You know, I have a weekly gig at Smalls Jazz Club on Wednesday nights, and you know,
And
it's
Smalls in the Village.
yeah, exactly.
New York's still the best town for clubs, number of places to sit in?
I think so. I mean, like we're saying, I just spent a lot of time in Europe. There's a lot of great players in Copenhagen. I had an amazing time in Italy. But New York, it's just for sheer volume. You know, there's just more of everything. There's great players everywhere, but there's just more volume of it in New York City. Same goes for the clubs.
So, what have you got on your? We nearly had a cameo appearance. That woodworking gentleman nearly walked by. That's all right. We have to pay him scale, but that's okay. We got a few minutes left. What was I going to ask you? So, what's your bucket list? What do you got going?
Oh man, well, you know, I got to record my last album. I got to play with Christian McBride, the great bass player, and that was definitely on my bucket list. There's a few other musicians that I'd love to work with. You know, Ron Carter. I mean, I love bass players, and we have some of these legends like Sir Carter that are, you know, in their 80s, still touring, still going strong, still playing. So, you know, I'd love to play the Village Vanguard. I'll just manifest that right now.
If you're listening, we'd like that. All right, folks want to find out more about you. Obviously, they will have gotten their full and then some at the concert. But what's your website? Can folks buy product on the website?
Yeah, everything's up there, all my gigs. It's just Benny Benack Jazz. And of course, you know, being the young folk that I am, I'm on Instagram and TikTok and all that all the time. So if you really want to know every single thing in my life that I'm doing, what I'm eating, what time I drink my coffee, you can check me out on Instagram too, you know.
Well, we're delighted you're here, my friend. And it's going to be a wonderful show. And for those who are watching Beyond today, it was a wonderful show.
Heck
Thank you,
yeah,
buddy.
thanks for having
Benny
me.
Benack. That's Jazz Tonight, brought to you by the Willow Street family of restaurants. Until next time, I'm Jacobi. I'll see you soon. Back to Jazz tonight. We're going to take a moment to get to know our sponsor, the Willow Street family of restaurants, which of course includes Willow Street Los Gatos, here in Main Street Burgers, with us Ed Rathman, the principal owner. Hello, Edward.
Hi, Michael.
It's good to see you, and great burger place, Main Street, which is, I mean, you had Willow Street for what, 15, 20 years before you opened Main Street?
Yeah, 12, 15 years, something like that.
And then and Main Street is right on the corner.
Right on the corner.
A hop, skip, and a burger.
We like to think the best corner in Los Gatos.
We like to think that as well. So how did that all come together? Now now every corner has a burger place.
It does.
But there was a time.
There was a time, we've been open 17 years, where there weren't any, quote, gourmet burger places around. I mean, you had McDonald's, you had Burger King, but you didn't really have high quality, little more pricey than McDonald's, but just really good quality burgers where people actually thought of the bun and the meat and the quality involved in putting it together.
Restaurants like Gott's, places like that, was that Napa originally?
There was one in Napa at the time, yeah.
And that was it. I think there might have been a couple of places in the city.
Maybe some places in the city, but nowhere in the valley here.
So when you say think about the meat and think about the bun, I hate the word Angus, but you do.
Yeah, we do Angus, sourced, really quality, natural beef.
Was it Neiman Ranch? You still do that?
No, we used to, but we have a similar quality one now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also, but it's like McDonald's says, give me the meat, give me some tomatoes. I mean, you have the same attention to detail, where you get the tomatoes from, where you get your lettuce from.
Yeah, and the combination of putting it together. I mean, sometimes, you'll have a burger and it just doesn't work. I mean, the ingredients are good, but the parts, some of the parts add up to nothing special. Yeah. And we spend a lot of time, thinking about the burgers we create and tasting them and making sure people are going to like them.
Full disclosure, I do some marketing for you guys, and the amount of time you spend on finding the right bun is incredible.
Yeah.
But it makes such a difference.
Yeah, and we also have the classic complement of handmade milkshakes that most people don't do anymore. Real ice cream, milk in a blender. It's a lot of work and takes a lot of time, but boy, they're delicious.
And I should also send my kudos to you both for Main Street and for Willow Street, where so many restaurants, their menus are written in stone, they're chiseled and don't change. You guys are constantly evolving, and I admire that.
I kind of feel like if you don't keep moving forward and trying new things, you're going to sink. And we keep trying to evolve and improve what we're doing.
Main Street Burgers, simply put, the better burger. Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks, Mike.